Hello, my name is Protik Mukhopadhyay. I'm an entrepreneur and an author. I'll be hosting the Reimagine Sales Systems podcast, where I'll be bringing some of the industry thought leaders who will be sharing their go to market strategies for their business systems. Hi, everyone. I have the pleasure of having Shawn Tumblin with me. He's the VP of Business Technology at Marqeta. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you.
So, Shawn, if you can share a little bit about your journey in the enterprise world. I see you've spent a lot of time at not just Marqeta, but other companies. That'll be really good for our listeners.
Yeah, so I started out, in consulting. So I was working at, back then it was Keen. I worked for a smaller consultancy and moved into a larger second tier consulting organization. It's now part of NTT, and got exposed to big projects, small projects, and a lot of different challenges supporting at the time Y2K work, and then moving into other state government contract work, which was a good exposure, and it was great for my career, and got to work with some great individuals. And then decided to do something different as this .com thing kind of came along, and joined a web development firm, and really started to build solutions in the early days. Really the early forerunners to what we would call SaaS today, or back then we called them application service providers, right? How can I deliver a solution via the internet? And whether it was an intranet tool or, for more of a consumer audience, right? How could we leverage technology to deliver that? Had the opportunity to meet some of the founders and leadership team at ExactTarget, and kind of pivoted there, and had the opportunity to join them when they were, still fairly small, 50 employees and less than, $15 million in revenue. And, it was a great opportunity to join a company that really went on a great growth story, and had the opportunity for the next 5 or 6 years really to spend my career building teams and helping scale the organization by building those teams and moving on to the next challenge. And then eventually moved into a team called corporate systems, and started to build a back office infrastructure to support that company as it went from 100 million to where we were at when as a public company, and Salesforce acquired us. So had the opportunity to really grow with the company, help scale and grow, and in that process learned a lot about myself and about what it meant to scale teams and individuals, and what it meant to build the processes, and to really know when your processes it's time to go to that next turn, and kind of go back and revisit what you have and how do you scale it, and even get to the point where you start to see that next inflection point for what you need to do come along. And then Salesforce acquired ExactTarget, and it was really a great experience. I got to experience things at a much larger scale. So I went from a 10-person web development firm to, at the time, 18,000 person company at Salesforce, and then really grow with them, and have some really interesting challenges. Spent some time in an M&A role, and then pivoted back into an application leadership role, where we were delivering solutions to support events like Dreamforce, replatforming the website and some other things, and a lot of great experiences, a lot of on Salesforce development experience. And then I had a great opportunity after almost 4.5 years with Salesforce to step out and become a CIO, and really lead a technology organization. And it was the first time I'd really joined with Cheetah Digital, really been part of the private equity carve out. So it was a real first to see the difference, and really take a company out of a larger company, been through a number of integrations and really bringing companies together. It was the first time really stepping out and leading the entire organization, and trying to develop, if you will, the processes, procedures, and really separate from Experian, which had owned that business. Learned a lot of great experiences leading a real global IT organization, and the challenges that come along with that. And again, there are parallels to the growth and scale, because you really don't have an IT infrastructure. Had a great team there that really did a lot of the work on the IT infrastructure side. So it was really focused on building out the systems side of things, and leading that. We did that up until the summer, and then took some time off, and had the opportunity to with Marqeta to really start again, and building from starting over, right, and scaling and growing a team. And we when I joined Marqeta, it was a team of 5 people on the business technology side, and we'll finish this year north of 22, 23 people. And really the challenge of bringing together and building the process and supporting our customers across, client help desk, client engineering, infra engineering, and then the business systems team. It's been a really fun ride.
That's quite a journey. Thank you, Shawn, for sharing that. Now, talking about your current role and also maybe a few leadership roles in the past, uh, like how would you advise a practitioner, let's say who's heading a business systems role for aligning with sales systems, right? Because sales systems are so critical for the revenue of the company. Like what are some of the ways you see people adopting or leveraging, for example, Salesforce CRM or CPQ to make their sales force more effective?
No, you really have to align the tool to the process. So regardless of whether it's CPQ, Aptus, which of the tools that you buy, right? How did that fit and how does that flow with the process and how does that enable them and really allow them to be more effective in what they're doing? How do you minimize clicks, right? And it's really a partnership. You can't, your sales or revenue operations leaders, you need to be aligned to them on what they're trying to achieve. And then, the last thing we really try to do is make sure that you've got that partnership. So it's not only you build it, but you engage all the appropriate people in your testing, your validation, so you go from requirements all the way through and make sure you got the right checkpoints. And then, fitting I've always said the process, if you can get that right, and then you wrap the tool around what the process does, it just fits in. And then anywhere you can facilitate and reduce manual data entry and repetitive work, it makes the adoption a lot easier. But you've got to have that partnership between the sales organization, their process, and then picking the right tool to really support and facilitate that.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Now talking about best practices and lessons learned, right? So when someone is thinking of a large transformation project, what are some of the best practices that you feel they should think based on the lessons learned from a prior experience? Things that are cross-functional, a lot of stakeholders, and are very visible projects. Like, what would you recommend someone planning that?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things. One, over communication, right? If you think you're communicating too much, you're probably not communicating enough in a large transformation effort. I think having key success factors or, having that group aligned to what the outcomes are and measuring the efforts to those outcomes. And I think having a stakeholder, that is, aligned to you, your stakeholders as a group being aligned to the outcomes, but then having a sponsor, having that sponsor who can, understand what's trying to be achieved and be a support for you beginning to end, so that you've got the organizational buy-in, you've got leadership buy-in, and then you've also got that sponsor to help drive and delivery across those things. Transformation efforts fail as often as they succeed because some of those structures aren't in place. And I think getting that organizational alignment at the outset, having that communication plan and engagement plan, and then having that sponsorship are a couple of things I think that, when I think back about the transformational work that gone well and hasn't gone well, those were the things that if had been better, on the ones that haven't gone well, if we had those pieces the way we really needed them to be and they weren't, they would have gone a lot better. And where they have gone well, we've had those things consistently, and it made it a lot easier and been a much more successful effort.
Thank you. Now, in terms of COVID, I know it was a very interesting year for us in 2020, and as you plan your 2021 and beyond, like what are some of the key priorities that your team is taking up, some challenges that you couldn't address last year? Can you share a little more insights on that?
Yeah, so we're preparing for the new normal or the new future or whatever buzzword you want to use, right? And how do we look at a hybrid work organization where we're growing as fast outside of our core offices as we are in? And how do we provide experiences and such that, it's the same whether you're in the room with us or you're online, everything from, delivery of devices to the experience to and securing those experiences to ensure that data transmission, since the space that we're in, we deal heavily with PII, and we want to make sure that we're doing so in a very secure way and providing that really positive experience, but not in a way that security done wrong can really make it hard for someone to do their job. So how do we bring all those pieces together and make it a positive experience? How do we evolve our planning processes? We're still a fairly young company and we're still growing. So how do we put the leadership within the business technology organization in place that they can, set goals and understand what their business partners' goals are and achieve the internal team goals along with the business goals. So how do we involve that planning process so that as we go into FY22, we can set the team up for success? A lot of what we're really focused on the second half this year is scale, right? Scaling the team, scaling the organization, scaling technology so that we can maximize our use of it and really put ourselves in a place that as the company continues to grow, which we've had tremendous growth, that we're, our goal is to be ahead of the company. We're even as we hire today, right, and evaluating our hiring processes to make sure that we're putting ourselves in a place that we're hiring not for what we need for today, but what we're going to need as a company in 18 months so that we can be out ahead of what the company needs us to be from a technology footprint perspective.
That's a very interesting insight. Shawn, a lot of our listeners are early career business analysts, developers. What would you recommend, like if they have to at some point of time go and be a VP of business systems or head of IT, what are some of the recommendations or lessons you would encourage them to do in their career?
I think one thing that I found very helpful in my career, and it might be for theirs, is to experience different companies, experience different roles, and experience different stages of a company. Because what a large enterprise company feels like is very different than a startup. I always consider myself lucky to have had the experience at ExactTarget and really go with that growth and scale. But I think there's that. I think you find a mentor, somebody that you can use as a sounding board and get feedback on your career journey. It's something that when I entered the workforce wasn't really a thing. I was fortunate to have some professors I was able to have conversations with, but having that mentor throughout your early career and ongoing career, because it will evolve who you want to lean on, but building that relationship and starting that and really building a network, I think is important, because getting that feedback from your peers about what the market's doing and where you're going with your career. And I think, taking risks, doing new and different things, learning from them. I'm a big believer. I'm personally an experiential learner, so that's for me it's how I learn, how I grow is by doing. For a different type of learners, there might be other ways that you can experience those things without putting yourself in a place where you're uncomfortable. But I think finding some of those career opportunities that aren't the exact fit but stretch and grow you are a great way to also really develop yourself as an individual and see what you're capable of. That doesn't work for everybody, and I understand that, but that's if I was looking back at myself as I was entering the job market after college, that's what I would tell myself.
That's a really good insight, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will learn from that. So with that, I would really like to thank Shawn today for his time. Shawn, thanks for sharing so much insights, and really appreciate all the journey and the lessons that you have shared. Thank you, Shawn.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to share them.
So with that, I would like to wrap up this podcast. Thank you all for tuning into Reimagine Enterprise Sales Systems. To listen to more exciting podcasts, please visit my website, protikm.com or protikm.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and other channels that you follow so that you'll never miss your show.